Hello and welcome to this episode of the PD Smash podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Steelers dropping 2 straight, the football team with their surprising one. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily surprising, but I would say defensively dominant at least. And then the award races for the NBA season that is coming up in less than a week. I know that's insane, right? So anyway, let's start from the beginning with Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I said this in my article and in my podcast, I believe it was last week, where I said that the Steelers were about to drop 2 straight. And look what happened. The Bills are right now a top 3 team in the NFL. Almost said the NBA there. That's no good. But you put that in considerations with the fact that they're also the hottest team in the NFL right now, and you get a team that is nearly unbeatable into a team that is on the decline as of right now because they cannot run to save their lives. They cannot run at all. I don't know what it is. James Conner is good. He's not Le'Veon Bell or anything, but he's still good. Tony Snell's still good. He's not great. He's average. I'd say he's a little below average, but they still should be able to run the ball. If you're telling me that Alfred Morris was able to get 5.3 yards a carry, what was it, last year or the year before that, and you're telling me that the Steelers can't run the ball at all, that's just cap. It's just straight cap. It really is. So I don't know what it is. There are reports coming out that it's Big Ben. There are reports coming out that it's the scheme. I don't know what it is, but something needs to change where they run the ball because that's when they're most effective. They're most effective when they run the ball and they give Big Ben the opportunity to play off play action, to play off a stacked box, and to be his best self in terms of passing and calling the offense. Now, there's not much I want to say on the Bills side. What a game by Stefon Diggs. That was an amazing game. Not much you can put else on there. That was just an amazing game. That was epic. It was just an amazing game for the Bills. Yeah, Stefon Diggs did well. Josh Allen did good enough, which is what you want against the Steelers defense. You aren't going to ask your quarterback to be Patrick Mahomes against the Steelers defense. As long as they're Jimmy Garoppolo during that game, you have a good chance to win, and that's what Josh Allen was. He was on the level of Jimmy Garoppolo that game. Now, overall, I think he's a top 10, fringe top 5 quarterback in the league. But I'm saying against that defense who makes everyone look like they're Carson Wentz of the season, basically, that's being someone on the caliber of Jimmy Garoppolo is a good thing. So that's pretty much all I have for that game. So I want to move on to the Eagles game, actually, because that was a shocker. And you could tell that Jalen Hurts brought an oomph to that team that they haven't had since, I would say, that Super Bowl run. There was no oomph to that team last year. Yes, they won the division, but there was still nothing scared you about that team. Jalen Hurts scares you about that team. How energetic they were yesterday scares you about that team. Yes, I know. Taysom Hill, not that good of a quarterback. Is he the worst starting quarterback in the league right now? No. But is he average? Probably not. So it's just keeping that in mind as you move forward with this discussion of, could the Eagles make it? That Saints team is not, offensively at least, is not great. Defensively, that is a great defensive team. So Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders both being able to rush for over 100 yards is very impressive. And I want to give them both kudos to that because it didn't look from what I watched that a lot of Jalen Hurts runs were scheduled, or Miles Sanders' runs were schemed really well. It just seemed like both of them just went at it and just got the yards. It didn't look like that game was particularly coached very well either on either side, but especially on the Eagles side. It didn't look like it was anything different happened with coaching, mainly. Yeah, they ran a few read options, but besides that, nothing looked structurally different. it just looked physically different because there was that another element that Jalen Hurts gave, and he was hitting throws. Like that throw he hit to that throw Jalen Hurts hit to Alshon Jeffrey is an insane throw. That's a really hard throw to make. Now, on the flip side, I think the Saints will be fine. I think Drew Brees coming back either this week or the week after will be okay. They'll be okay. They will not get the 1 seed, in my opinion. I don't see the Packers losing another game because I think the Packers are on a roll right now, and I think they're going to try to finish out the season hot. And, yeah, I really just don't see it. And, yeah, so they'll probably end up with the 2 seed. They'll probably end up playing... that's a tough one. I don't know who they'll end up playing. I'm trying to think of the playoff picture right now. It seems like they'd end up playing the Cardinals maybe, that's a really tough round 1 matchup for you. If you're playing the Cardinals, that's a really tough round 1 matchup. And I really don't know if they're going to get past that, but that seems like who they're going to face is the Cardinals in round 1. And that's going to be a fun one. Now, that's pretty much it in terms of that. I do want to touch briefly on the Browns game before I move to the Washington football team game, because that Browns game was insane. Yes, Baker, who threw a pick, but was great besides that pick, like exceptional. You score 42 points, you should win the game. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. If you put up 42 points on any defense, you should expect your defense to be able to hold your opponent to under 42 points. So as long as Baker can continue to do that, then I'm okay. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with if Baker throws a pick, if he can get his team to 42 points. And that pick wasn't even a bad decision. You heard the announcer ripping on him in the game, and you hear people ripping on him in sports media, but if you look at that throw, if that throw's on target, he hits that throw for like 10 yards. That's a throw he can make. He just underthrew him, and he just got picked off. The outside linebacker made an amazing play, but it was an underthrown ball. If that's thrown on target, that's 10 yards. So it wasn't even a horrible throw. He just missed it a little bit, and in those intermediate spots where you have that linebacker running out, that just will happen sometimes if you can't hit that throw. Now, I'm not saying that it was the best decision in the entire world, because it wasn't, because it was a clean pocket and he had time to do other stuff, but it wasn't a horrible decision like people are saying. Now, this game was also like a coming out party, it felt like, for Lamar in terms of him maturing as a quarterback into what we want to see from him long term, because we all know he is the most dynamic player in the NFL by far. There's no player that is like him. You're like, oh, Kyler Murray, but he's not as fast. Lamar is faster than Kyler Murray. He's a better runner than Kyler Murray. Maybe he doesn't have the arm Kyler Murray does. That's for sure. But Lamar makes grown athletes, professional athletes, look like toddlers. And you can't say that about anyone else. Tyreek Hill is fast, but he doesn't make kids look like toddlers. The last time you could really say something like that happened would be like with Randy Moss, where he would literally just jump over people and just destroy them and make them look inferior as just a human being. So I don't really see that as like oh, cool. But what I really was impressed by was Lamar's arm, because it looked like at the end of that game he was hitting all his throws. And at the beginning of the game, he missed 2 throws that were like good. They were good decisions, and you could tell he had the arm strength on it. Sorry about that. But it was the fact that he just missed it accuracy-wise, and that's something you can fix. He's only in his 3rd year, guys. He can fix this in the offseason. And you can see the maturation of him throughout that game, where he was being able to hit throws on the run by the end of that game with really good accuracy to set up that touchdown and then that field goal from Justin Tucker. That game was amazing to watch, and if you didn't watch it and you fell asleep, I'm sorry, but that was a hell of a game. And then afterwards, man said he wasn't pulling a Paul Pierce, which was, if you don't know, Paul Pierce, who's a famous NBA player, ex-NBA player. I believe it was in 2008. I don't remember what year it was, but it was during his tenure with the Celtics, where at the opening stages, it looked like he pooped himself, and then he went back in the locker room and said he had cramps, and then he came back a few minutes later with a clean uniform. That's the story. So Lamar was like, I don't want to pull a pop here. So he just basically flamed someone who is still in the public eye because he's an analysis now. Not analysis. He's an analyst. He's an analyst for ESPN. So he just flamed an analyst for pooping his pants, basically, en route to saying that he didn't. So that was pretty savage of him. Now moving on to the final subtopic here, the Washington football team. Now, let's go. Like, that was not a pretty game at all. Alex Smith was injured halfway through. Dwayne Haskins didn't lose us the game, and that's what you really want from Dwayne Haskins. Peyton Barber and J.D. McKissick, good games, not great games. They're not Antonio Gibson, but they did well. And then that defense. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Cole Holcomb, Kendall Fuller, Cameron Curl, Matthew Ioannidis, Daron Payne bringing the pain, Jonathan Allen. That's a hell of a defense right there. That's one hell of a defense. And just seeing Chase Young's speed was insane. They were chasing Chase Young into the end zone. It was insane. That was what I would say is savagery. That would be insanity. That would be crazy. That's crazy, in my opinion, at least. That is absolutely insane. And I'm very impressed by what the defense showed, because they didn't just do it in spurts. They did it throughout the entire game. And they were like, we're going to shut you down. Because Chris Mullen, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not like top 10 or anything, but he's slightly below average, but he's a slightly below average starter. So he's like probably 15, 16 in ranking starting quarterbacks, and be able to hold that offense, who still had Raheem Mostert, who still had Brandon Ayuk, who had that running back. Oh, I forget his name. It's the second string running back for the 49ers, who looks really good now too. He looks like he's having a breakout year. Like, that offense is not bad. And Kyle Shanahan's a good offensive play caller. And to be able to hold them to like 15 points is very impressive. It was a very impressive feat to accomplish. So kudos to the Washington football team, and that raises their chances to making the playoffs. Now for the 49ers, this basically cuts their chances. They needed to win out to have a chance. They haven't won out. The best they can go now is 8-8. I don't see them going 8-8 either. But even by some miracle they do. You're competing with like the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Seattle Seahawks. Like, you're competing with all those teams for a wild card spot. The Vikings too. And all of them have better records than you. It would take a miracle. I mean, absolute miracle for them to win, to get a wild card spot. So I think this pretty much eliminates them, not mathematically, but realistically, from playoff contention. Now, for the main topic, I wanted to go through and kind of just talk about who I think is going to win certain awards in the NBA season. Now, in my opinion, for most improved player of the year, this is the toughest award to judge every year, because you never know who's going to be in the right situation to succeed. So this is a very shot in the dark, but someone I think who's flown under the radar and I think could have a really big year this year is De'Aaron Fox. Because if the Sacramento Kings, say, make the 7th seed, and he's averaging 25 points, 8 assists, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds on like 50% shooting from the field, 37% shooting from the three-point line, and like 82% from the free throw line, you get yourself a mighty fine most improved player of the year candidate right there in De'Aaron Fox, who's already been good, but that would push him to an all-star, borderline all-NBA player, and that's crazy. And that would warrant a consideration for most improved player of the year. Now, I really don't have anyone other than this on mind right now, because this is one of the rewards that are so hard to judge because of the situations people are in and injuries and stuff like that. So it's so hard to judge this, but I think De'Aaron Fox is a great candidate to win this award. Now, next, Coach of the Year. Now, this has a couple of potential winners here. We have the Dallas Mavericks, Rick Carlisle, who, if they're able to propel themselves to a third seed or a second seed, which is possible for them, then you have to give Rick Carlisle some consideration for Coach of the Year, as this will be back-to-back years. He's done an amazing thing with that Dallas Mavericks offense and that Dallas Mavericks team as a whole. So he's definitely one you have to consider. Another one you have to consider, if they get high enough in the seeding, is the Washington Wizards, because you have Bradley Beal, John Wall, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, Damian Dia, Thomas Bryant, and if they're able to get the fourth seed by some miracle, then that's someone you gotta consider when talking about who the best coaches in the NBA this year. Other than that, I don't see a lot of options, because you gotta look at the top. Usually it goes to one of the top 4 coaches. Eric Spoelstra could have a good chance of winning it, maybe, if they're able to clinch the second seed or the first seed. But other than that, you'd be it's probably going to be the Bucks again, which I doubt Bud is going to win it again. Coach Bud is going to win it again. Then you have someone like the 76ers, who maybe Doc wins it if the 76ers clinch the first seed, but that's always up in the air. But you have the Boston Celtics, who are expected to get that second seed regardless, so you don't really give that leg up to Brad Stevens. And then on the other side, you'll get the Los Angeles Lakers, which won't win Coach of the Year because they're expected to be the first, second seed. The Clippers supposed to be a third, second seed, first seed contender. So unless it's they win 62 games, because it's a shortened season, so 62 games would be losing 10 games at all of it, losing 10 games throughout the entire season, then maybe I could see consideration there, especially since it's a new coach. But it's really, unless they blow everyone out of the water, I don't see it happening. And since load management is a thing with Kawhi and a thing with Paul George at times, I don't see them being able to do that. And then next you have the Nuggets, which the Nuggets are now expected to be a third seed, so you can't really put them there. So it's it really just seems like it's going to be a 2-horse race this year. We'll see if some team does surprisingly well. You could see if the Sacramento Kings are able to get a 5th seed for some reason, then you have to put Luke Walton in there. But there are a few, or if Timberwolves are able to make it into the playoffs and get a 6th seed, you got to put the Timberwolves coach in there as well. The Suns coach is another good one, Monty Williams, but I don't necessarily know. They'd have to get a second seed or a third seed for them to be in consideration, because they're supposed to be a playoff team with that amount of talent. So I wouldn't see why you give him the Coach of the Year unless he did something really, really good. But anyway, that's the Coach of the Year candidates and how I see it shaping out. Just to recap, I think it will be either Rick Carlisle of the Dallas Mavericks or the Wizards coach. My pick, though, is Rick Carlisle of the Dallas Mavericks. Next, I want to talk about Rookie of the Year. For me, there are three main candidates. We have Bol Bol, LaMelo Ball, and James Wiseman. Now, the reason I don't have Anthony Edwards in here is because he's going to be playing with two stars who need the ball in their hands to score. So I think that he might be the best out of all of them, but he's going to take his time getting into the rotation and getting his share of the ball. So it's going to take him a little while to really get into it. Now, with James Wiseman, they're going to need him to produce immediately because they don't have that stone cold second option like they would have with Klay. But since Klay's out, they're going to need Wiseman to contribute right away. So he's definitely a big contributor. Now, Bol Bol is the interesting one because Bol Bol is technically still a rookie because he only played 7 games. And with the exit of Mason Plumlee and the exit of big men on the roster other than Nikola Jokic and Paul Millsap, it feels like Bol Bol could get a lot of those backup center minutes. And the Plumlee brothers are playing good 25 minutes a game. And I don't think it's going to be an amazing rookie class in terms of rookie year statistics. So if Bol Bol is able to put up 16, 10, 5 assists in a block and a half a game, that could definitely win him the Rookie of the Year. Without a doubt, that could win him Rookie of the Year. So, there's that interesting concept of, if he comes off the bench and splits minutes with Jokic for the most part, and he's out there, he's shooting, because he can stretch the floor, he can put the ball in the court, he can pass his mind out. If he's able to do all that, you give him 25 minutes a game. He scores about 16 points a game. You give him enough time to handle the ball to where he can get enough assists. Because also, this allows you to run the same offense that you would run when Nikola Jokic is in the game, because Bol Bol is a different player than Jokic, obviously, but he can still pass the ball at an extremely high level, and he can post up very well. So it allows you to run a similar type of offense with Bol Bol in than you'd run with Jokic in as well, because you can utilize their passing ability in similar ways. So that's always an interesting concept of thinking about it. And then finally we have LaMelo Ball. I think the interesting thing about LaMelo Ball is he's the most NBA ready prospect right now, other than maybe Bol Bol, because he played in the ABL for a year. I forget if it's a year or two, but anyway, he's played in a professional league. So his body's NBA ready, his mind's NBA ready, and his play style is is professionally tested. So he's gonna come out and be ready to play consistent minutes and give consistent production from the get-go. And in a shorter season, that's gonna matter. So he right now is my favorite to win it. And I think Bol Bol is probably my second. James Wiseman is probably my third. And then my dark horse is Patrick Willis. Because I think even though he's extremely raw, he seems like one of those players that really wants to work at it. And I see him trying to put the work in already. And if he's able to put it all together and start exploding towards the end of half, recency bias is a real thing when voting for these awards. So I could definitely see that happening. Next, we're going to talk about the Defensive Player of the Year. Now, for the Defensive Player of the Year, there are the two main candidates, which, if you think about it, three main candidates, if you think about it in a nutshell, are Kawhi, Anthony Davis, and Giannis. Now, Kawhi is going to be iffy because how much is he going to load manage? How much effort he's going to put in during the regular season on the defensive side. And there are a bunch of factors there. Now with Anthony Davis, the problem is he plays with LeBron. And so that defensive presence is going to get overshadowed a little bit. So he's going to have to have a really good season for him to stand out as a defense. He's going to have a better season than last year defensively for him to get really big consideration. And then Giannis, I think the Giannis award fatigue is going to set in. So I think it's going to be really hard unless he's I'm averaging 4 blocks a game or 3 blocks a game, 2 steals a game, then that's when you're like, oh, maybe he should win it again. But the player I see winning it is a dark horse pick, in my opinion, and that's Bam Adebayo. Because I see him improving again this year, and him taking on a larger role as Goran Dragic gets older, and so he's going to have to step up in his responsibilities. And I see him being able to take a leap defensively because he's already a good defender. So now just taking that extra leap so he could be a defender who could be an Defensive Player of the Year runner-up, or Defensive Player of the Year, period. Because I could see him blocking shots, he can guard perimeter guys. He gives you everything Anthony Davis does on the defensive end, but his team's not necessarily as stacked, and he has a narrative where Anthony Davis really doesn't. So I'd like to see Bam win it, because I think that'd be a great change of pace from the normal winners of awards. Be like, oh, Bam won it, what? Other than the names that have already been thrown in there in the past few years. Now, finally, I want to talk MVP. And with MVP, this seems like, oh, maybe it should be LeBron. Maybe it should be Giannis again. Maybe Anthony Davis. Maybe James Harden. But there's a distinct problem with every single one of those. LeBron doesn't have a narrative this year. Last year he had a narrative because he's like, I have something to prove. I need to go and do it. I'm in year 17 and I'm still the best player in the world. Like, he had that narrative. This year he doesn't really have that narrative because his team's good. He just came off a championship. So he doesn't have that narrative of like, ooh, there's something eye-catchy about him. And the same goes with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis doesn't have that narrative. And not only that, if LeBron and Anthony Davis are playing on the same team, that's going to detract each other's chances for winning the MVP. Now with James Harden, this whole preseason debacle is going to put a stain on his chance, because he's going to either play for the Rockets for the first few games and then get traded and then have to work out a new system and change the perception of himself, or he's going to have to do that off rip. And this whole I want to be out of here, going to strip clubs type thing is going to hurt him in the long run when it comes to talking about his MVP chances. And then finally, Giannis, as I said before, I think voter fatigue is going to set in. I think it's going to set in hard for Giannis. I don't see him getting any real consideration for any award until he gets to the finals and makes the finals competitive. So with all that said, I think that Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP, because you put Luka on that team with another year to improve, and you can make him the third. If you can make the third seed there, which is possible, because you'd be like, oh, the Clippers are resting, so they might hit the 4th seed because there are less games. And then you'll have, the Nuggets might fall off a little bit because they're going to have to figure out the rotation. And the Lakers are going to load manage LeBron and Anthony Davis, especially at the beginning of the season, because they've had such a short off season. So you think of all those things and you're like, well, Luka has none of that. And if he's able to force it to a third, he's able to and propel the Mavericks to a 3rd seed. Imagine how much that would do for his MVP chances, especially if he's improved, because last year he was averaging a near 30-point triple-double. So you up the rebounds a little bit, you up the assists a little bit, you up the points a little bit, and you get a 30-point triple-double right there in a person in their 3rd year, and you get a solid MVP candidate. So I hope you enjoyed. Those are my award predictions this year. I wonder if you guys have any other takes that might surprise me, might give me new insight. I'm just all curious. As always, I created this so I could communicate with you guys. So I just want to thank you all for listening. And until next time, PD Smash, signing off.